Candidates begin taking the BEPC examination of the French subsystem of education in Cameroon amidst most stringent barrier measures to stem the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic. Those are our top stories. Hello, I am Ben Menopofong with the 7:30 news live from Yaoundé.
Each of us must comply with the measures that have been taken.
You're welcome once again. The government of Cameroon is now pushing for a policy that reduces importation while encouraging local production. The policy, dubbed import substitution, is being described by economists as an inevitable path to boosting local brands and accelerating economic growth. In the paper that follows, Clarice Takang explains what import substitution is all about and how it plays out in the economy.
Importing just what is needed, or if not possible for a number of reasons, substituting a cereal, for example, with another. This is the idea behind the import substitution policy.
Either we are replacing some goods or importing just what is needed. If we could take consumers to consume something else in replacement of rice, for example, the rate of rice consumption will drop and if we act now as a substitute. Consumers are driven by availability and price. We have to first of all make sure that we can satisfy the people's needs.
Cameroon's import bill has risen over time, sometimes almost rubbing shoulders with the state budget. The pressure on the trade balance is inevitable. Cutting down on superfluous imports is achievable, economists agree, but there is a price to pay. We have to produce in a competitive manner. As for the moment, most of our local producers, what they face as problems is cost of production. We have improved seedlings, mechanize our agriculture, maybe energy for the processing, processing, storing, even moving from farm to markets or farm to storage sites. Dealing with COVID-19 has put the imperative of promoting the Made in Cameroon brand in sharp focus. Many are those eager to see the import substitution concept go past being a strategy to effective actions which feed consumers and the domestic economy.
The policy of import substitution is being flaunted at a
into the country to the detriment of locally produced ones. These include toothpicks, fabrics, and flowers.
Rose flowers come from Kenya. The local flower come from Boya, Njombe, Macaque, Penja. Potted flower come from Kenya, France, and Holland.
While local furniture makers are struggling to keep their heads above water, imported furnitures occupy a comfortable place in the country.
Yeah, we have local made and we also have foreign made. We import from everywhere in the Middle East of Asia. We also import from Europe. Yeah, because we want to give to our consumers the best quality in terms of price and in terms of the durability of the material. Yeah, so we have a lot of luxury things affordable to our customers here.
140,000 tons of rice is produced yearly, satisfying 1/4 of national needs, therefore opening the way for importation, cover the 400,000 tons deficit.
And Cameroon's Minister of Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises, Social Economy and Handicraft, Achille Basilikin III, has granted an audience to the outgoing ambassador of the European Union delegation to Cameroon, His Excellency Hans-Peter Schadek. Ambassador Hans-Peter Schadek discussed a range of cooperation issues in the domain of small and medium-sized enterprises, amongst which the promotion of socio-economic projects in Cameroon. The farewell audience comes on the heels of other audiences granted to the European Union's Crise by other cabinet ministers. Let's talk education now to say some 212 candidates who registered for the Brevet d'études du premier cycle BEPC of the French subsystem of education have begun writing the examination today across the national territory. Government High School in Kozua, like other examination centers in Yaoundé, witnessed a special safety measures for a hitch-free exercise that will run till the weekend, as we hear in this report with Victor Siga.
At the government bilingual high school in Kozua, 647 candidates sitting for the Brevet d'études du premier cycle turned out for the exam. After mandatory checks, students were allowed into the classrooms. Étude de texte was the first subject that knowledge was tested on.
Here we adopt the barrier measure against COVID-19. All the candidates aboard their mask, and in the classroom we have 24 candidates per class.
No incidents were reported so far. Candidates were provided with the essentials to ensure safety and security. The session will be rounding up by the end of this week.
And the Ministry of Basic Education has renewed its partnership agreement with Plan International, a non-governmental organization. The partnership agreement, which was renewed in 2014, seeks to encourage the education of the girl child in Cameroon. Minister Laurent Serge Tundingwa, who signed the document for his ministry, told our reporter Gerald Nanji Eyambe the importance of renewing that partnership agreement.
This cooperation between Cameroon and Plan International is fruitful and is very productive. This is the reason why the government finds it necessary to renew it. We build classrooms, we assist children, we assist girls of Cameroon to start school. We endorse the pedagogic aspects of the cooperation in all the domains. I want to thank Plan Cameroon for the effort they made to develop the sector of education.
Let's go back to the BEPC examination to say close to 70,000 candidates, among them visually impaired, the visually challenged rather, in the three northern regions of the country, have started writing the Brevet d'études du premier cycle, the BEPC. They have joined their colleagues today across the nation to take the examination that promotes them to the second cycle of secondary education under the French subsystem in Cameroon. Gerald Nanje has a roundup of the first day of that examination in the three northern regions of the country.
GBHS Marwa is a loan center in the Far North region, hosting BEPC candidates with visual impairment. Though visually impaired, Christine Avamaya and Adaron Bono are looking forward with optimism.
Listening and reading comprehension were quite easy for me. If the examination continue in this manner, then I'm sure to succeed.
We are doing more for them because, as you know, they cannot see. In the classroom, they are sitting according to the social distanciation because of COVID-19.
Meantime, Government High School Nasarao, like other BEPC examination centers in Garoua, Tuesday, candidates took reading comprehension and dictation.
All the precaution has been taken to do a good work. Everything go well.
School authorities say the examinations are going on hitch-free.
On to something else now. Over 180 billion CFA francs have been recovered from state thieves by the Special Criminal Court over the past 10 years after having passed judgment on 225 cases of misappropriation of public funds. These figures are contained in the special publication of the court, whose statutory text habilitates it to hear cases of misappropriation valued at 50 million CFA francs and above. Kylian Dandifon flipped through that special publication and is here with the summary.
Article 184, paragraph 5 of the Penal Code that guides the procedure of the Special Criminal Court orders the publication of its judgments to make known jurisprudence on misappropriation of public property, inform public opinion on its decisions, and promote the work of its experts. According to the President of the Special Criminal Court, it is the first time this public service clause of the law is respected, whereas there are other competent courts bound by the same regulation. Since 2012, and in 5 volumes, the Special Criminal Court has published judgments on 225 registered cases, 175 on merit and interlocutory. Over 180 billion CFA francs recovered and deposited in the state treasury under corpus delicti, damages and fines. The competence of the Special Criminal Court is with those involved in misappropriation of 50 million CFA francs and above, and each witness goes through the examination in chief, a cross-examination and a re-examination where applicable.
The committee in charge of the monitoring and supervision of the implementation of a new computerized system for the integrated management of state human resources and payroll has met in its first session in Yaoundé. Today's session examined the way of successful implementation of CGPES-2, whose first trial in 2013 failed. Here now is the Minister of Public Service and Administrative Reform, Joseph Blay, as he spoke to our reporter Emmanuel Vermeuil on the import of this new system.
Today, we still have 2 systems, and with those 2 systems, we still have some problems. That's why it's important to combine both so that we can, at the same time, manage the staff and the payroll. It's a big challenge, but all of us, we are involved, we are committed, and I'm optimistic, and we just have to succeed.
Let's now talk about the COVID-19 pandemic to say a new COVID testing campaign dubbed Operation Mobile Testing that meets people at market squares and in their neighborhoods has been launched in the nation's capital. The Minister of Public Health, Manauda Malachi, who kick-started the operation today, said it also permits the campaign caravans to sensitize the population to the devastating effects of the coronavirus. We have details in this report with Baldwin Sama.
A megaphone in hand, sensitizing the population of the Mokolo market on the need to get screened for COVID-19 as health professionals mobilized by the Ministry of Public Health kickstarts a 1-month campaign dubbed Operation Mobile Testing. They moved into different sections of the Mokolo market, convincing traders while distributing anti-COVID flyers. Those who were receptive had themselves screened for COVID-19 while waiting for their results.
I'm very happy. I will go back to the minister and tell him that the operation, the beginning of the operation is good.
Sensitization is carried out in French and local languages as this team is expected to visit travel agencies and university campuses in the days ahead to fish out potential COVID-19 patients.
Fresh fish vendors of the Boamanga Wharf in Crtv, south region of Cameroon, have received a consignment of materials to fight against sea and ocean pollution as well as the COVID-19 pandemic. The donation from the Crtv Deep Sea Port Women Association were handed over to the Assistant Director of the Boamanga Wharf as the women celebrate the 5th edition of the African Sea and Ocean Day. Polycarp Atie reports from Crtv.
The Crtv Deep Sea Port Women Association has just joined the fight against water pollution and COVID-19, which has been claiming lives and crippling the economy of the division since its outbreak as they celebrate the 5th edition of the African Ocean and Sea Day. The women targeted the Boamanga Wharf Station, which is an economic hub in the resource city of Crtv, where water pollution and social distancing are hardly respected by the population that turned out massively on daily basis to sell and buy seafoods.
What we have brought here is the dustbins, so that instead of throwing trash in the ocean, those ladies have to put them in the dustbin. And also we have COVID-19, so everybody has to fight against it. That's why we brought some masks.
A sensitization campaign on the effects of water pollution on the aquatic life and the killer disease, the coronavirus, and its preventive kits were handed to the officials of Boamanga Wharf Station to distribute to the population, a gesture saluted by the Assistant Director of Boamanga Wharf Station.
This person will make that the population fight against pollution. We are working in the sea, and if we don't take care with sea, we will not enjoy again.
In the Ocean Division, the fight against the sea and ocean pollution, as well as the COVID-19 pandemic, is no longer the affair of the government as it used to be, but many, like the Crtv Deep Sea Port Women Association.
The new Operation Mobile Testing approach that we were talking about a moment ago, and which takes the medical staff towards the population, is intended to contain the figures of infected cases of COVID-19 in Cameroon that keeps rising by the day. Baldwin Sama is on standby at the Public Health Emergency Operations Center with Dr. Blaise Akenji, with whom he now explores some of the new measures that have been taken in order to hold back the spread of the coronavirus in Cameroon. Hello, Baldwin. Thanks for coming on.
Good evening to you, Ben Menopufong. The non-respect by most Cameroonians of the different outline measures by the government to limit the spread of COVID-19 in the country happens to be one of the challenges faced by public health experts in the 10 different regions of the country as far as containing the spread of COVID-19 is concerned. That is what we shall be discussing with our guest tonight, Dr. Blaise Akenji, who is a clinical biologist. What methods have been put in place by the Ministry of Public Health to be able to contain the spread of the virus so far? Good evening, Doctor.
Good evening, Baldwin.
With the launch of this operation, this new operation as far as testing is concerned in the nation's capital city today, what are some of the methods put in place by the Ministry of Public Health to be able to contain the spread of COVID-19 so far?
Okay, thank you very much, Baldwin. I would love to say that the measures that are in place right now are not really new per se. These are measures that have been in place roughly since the beginning of the year, and what we are doing is we are trying to reinforce the application of these measures. Broadly speaking, these measures focus on preventing the importation of COVID-19 cases into our country, and also on limiting the spread of COVID-19 within our local communities. Case in point, now it is mandatory for anyone coming into the country to show proof that they have tested negative for COVID-19 as recently as 3 days prior to their arrival in Cameroon. We have mobile testing sites which are placed also at these seaports and at our airports. Now, when it comes to limiting spread within the community, it's fair to say that the Ministry of Public Health has been relentless in its effort on sensitizing the population on respecting the social regulations that were put in place from the beginning of the year. Measures we all know: regular hand washing, maintaining social distance, avoiding large crowds, staying home as much as possible. These measures have worked in Europe, in Asia, and we think that in Cameroon they'll work well if put in place correctly.
And finally, very briefly, how do you guys do to manage cases of asymptomatic persons, given that they are the ones who easily spread this virus?
Okay, that's a very good question indeed, because as you said, this asymptomatic people actually spread this disease unknowingly. They are unaware of the case. So what we do is, with the mobile testing strategy available now, we quickly detect these cases, people who are asymptomatic, quickly detecting them.
Now, in the second act of our series on the programming of musical content by local radio stations in Cameroon, we explore the regulatory framework that governs this exigency. Cameroon's Ministry of Communication had since issued a legal document that imposes a quota of 51% of local composition to be aired by local radio stations in the country. But as Romeo and Kenya went finding out, most radio stations in the country do not pay heed to this requirement as they continue to flood their airwaves with foreign music.
A document from the Ministry of Communication clearly indicates that musical content aired on radio and television stations each day be 51% local productions. The General Rule of Programming and Deontology adds that this should be during convenient hours of the day. The reality is different.
About this decision of 51%, I think that it has to be adapted because it's a decision who has been taken by the time where there was not concurrence.
For her part, the Cameroon Radio Television (CRTV) has been leading by example, giving necessary exposure. The audiovisual institution even goes as far as paying musicians copyright.
The quotas here are 80-20. The 80% means that we want to promote our culture.
It is true the sector has been witnessing a series of broken records, but with an eminent enforcement of the existing decision, stakeholders believe Cameroonian music can once again reach success pinnacle like in the past.
The head of the Turkish International Cooperation Agency for Africa, TICAR, has expressed his desire to assist the Cameroon Radio Television, the CRTV, in its rehabilitation projects such as the provision of the state-of-the-art cameras and the renovation of other equipment for quality broadcast. Professor Mohamed Yazgan was speaking earlier today during a courtesy visit to the general manager of the Cameroon Radio Television, Charles Ndongo, at the CRTV Production Center here in Yaoundé. Clarence Ngwe reports on the outcome of the exchange.
The over 1 hour exchange between the Director General of CRTV, Charles Ndongo, and his guest was centered on Turkish desire to assist the state broadcaster in its rehabilitation process. The head of the Turkish International Cooperation Agency for Africa, Professor Mohamed Yazgan, expressed his wish to assist the Cameroon Radio Television in the provision of sophisticated cameras to enhance quality broadcast and the renovation of some equipment in the studios of CRTV. Both officials also discussed on issues related to training in the field of exchange programs between CRTV and the Turkish Radio Television TRT. The visit also took the Director General of CRTV, Charles Ndongo, and the head of the Turkish International Cooperation Agency for Africa to some services of the production center. However, the august guest was visibly impressed with the state of the art he saw in the outdoor broadcasting vans. This comes at a time when CRTV is renewing its equipment and has the ambition of becoming the leading corporation within the sub-region.
Clarence Ngay there, bringing an end to this edition of the 7:30 News. But before we go, a recap of our top stories. The Cameroon government brands import substitution as an inevitable path to engineering the country's economy and speeding up growth. The Special Criminal Court retrieves over 180 billion CFA francs from state thieves, then passing over 225 judgments in its 10 years of existence. And over 2,000 candidates begin taking the BEPC examination of the French subsystem of education in Cameroon amidst the most stringent barrier measures to stem the spread of the coronavirus in the school milieu. And that's it for the 7:30 News on the CRTV. Thanks for watching. We are back tomorrow, 7:30. Bye-bye.